The Painkiller Illrigger is an awesome melee-based attacker that can also imbue all your allies. It's incredible, so we're going to go over it level by level, combat tutorial, and all the items you could need. So we start with the Illrigger mod, and of course, Baneful Seal. This means we can place a seal on a creature, which will let us do an additional 1 to 6 fire or necrotic damage when we or an ally attack it. It's a bonus action to place the seal. We can obviously burn the seal, as we just spoke about. We also gain Charisma and Constitution saving throw proficiencies, as well as Simple, Martial, Light, Medium, and Shield proficiencies. For a Forked Tongue, you can kind of pick whichever one you fancy. You can go Deception, Intimidation, Persuasion. I think Intimidation just fits the theme better. And then for your ability points, we're going to have 8 Strength, 16 Dex, 14 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 16 Charisma. For your proficiencies, take what you feel like. And that brings us to Illrigger level 2, where we get to pick some passives. Now for our combat mastery, we're going to go with Lies. So when you make an attack with that weapon, you can use your Charisma modifier for attack and damage rolls. Meaning we can dump our strength and just focus on our Charisma, as this will also do any spells if you choose to be a spellcaster or take a different subclass. For your boons, we're going to come down here and take Soul Eater. So when you burn a Baneful Seal on a creature, you gain temporary hit points equal to your Illrigger class level. So it's a really cool way of just gaining temporary hit points literally every combat. Illrigger level 3 is where we get our specialization, and for this one, the Painkiller. The heavily armoured Death Troopers of the Hells, Painkillers lead from the front in every major battle. So this gives us punishment. When a creature damages you with an attack, you can use your reaction to deal the same damage back as necrotic damage, which is incredible. Devastator. So imbue up to 3 allies within 9 meters with Internal Fury. You can make a weapon attack, and your chosen allies can use a reaction on their next turn to make a weapon attack. And Grand Strategist. Increase up to 3 allies' movement speed by 50%, and they don't provoke opportunity attacks. And you can see, Grand Strategist uses one of your Invoke the Hells charges. Illrigger level 4 brings our first feat. For this one, we're going to bump our Charisma up to 18. Illrigger level 5 brings an extra attack, so if we make an attack with our main action, we can follow up with an extra one. Illrigger level 6 unlocks Infernal Conduit, so we can channel the power of the Hells to either harm or heal people around us, and this is really, really cool. I will show you this. Illrigger level 7 brings a Baneful Interric charge as well as an Infernal Conduit charge. We also gain a new passive and get Telekinetic Seal. So when an enemy enters your reach, you can use a reaction to apply a seal and possibly push them back 4.5 meters or knock them prone. Now we're getting another boon, and for this one we're going to take Acheron's Chains. So you can use your bonus action to apply Baneful Seal. You can attempt to pull the target up to 3 meters towards you, or reduce its movement speed to 0. This is awesome for ensuring enemies attack you, and then you can benefit from being able to do the reaction where you hit them back with the same damage as necrotic damage. Illrigger level 8 brings a new feat. Now for this one, we're going to bump our Charisma all the way to 20 to max it out. Illrigger level 9 brings another Infernal Conduit charge, and Forked Tongue Insight, so you have advantage on Insight ability checks. Illrigger level 10 brings a Blood Price. So if we fail a saving throw, we can spend a Blood Price dice to take 1 to 10 necrotic damage, but increase our saving throw by 1d10. Nice little trade-off. Illrigger level 11 gives us another Infernal Conduit charge, and Terrorizing Force. So you can imbue your weapon with Devastating Infernal Might, causing it to do an additional 1d8 damage of the selected element. We also gain Summon the Hells, so we can have a Cambion follow us until long rest. And you die on my command, so if an ally falls to 0 hit points, we can use a reaction to basically shout at them and drop them to 1 hit point instead. And finally, level 12. This brings us another Baneful and Blood Price charge, as well as a third feat. Now before that we gain one more boon, and for this one we're going to take Hellish Frenzy. So if we're within 9 meters of a sealed enemy, we can expend a seal and enter a frenzied state, and this will increase your movement speed by double, increase our armor class by 2, and we can make a free weapon attack once per turn. We gain a new feat, so for this one, you could take Alert or Great Weapon Master, depends if you want to have more of an advantage in going first, or if you want more damage. I'm going to take Alert because we deal enough damage in my opinion with our reactions and stuff. So let's go over our equipment, and we start with Savarok's Horned Helmet to give us dark vision up to 3 meters or 15 if we already have it, and reduce our critical number by 1 to 19. We cannot be frightened or afflicted with emotion altering conditions, and we gain a Constitution saving throws +1. For a cloak, we're going to take the Flesh Melter Cloak, so if we take melee damage from an attacker, they'll take 1 to 4 acid damage. We're going to take the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, so we cannot be enwebbed, entangled or ensnared or slip on ice or grease, and we gain Misty Step. For armour, we're going to take the Armour of Agility to get exotic materials, so we can add our full Dexterity modifier to our AC, bringing us to a 20. For gloves, we're going to take the Helldust Gloves, +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC, and our weapon attacks will do an additional 1 to 6 fire damage. For rings, the Caustic Band for a solid 2 acid damage, the Shifting Corpus Ring for invisibility and blur, the Amulet of Baal, so on a hit, inflict bleeding upon targets that have maximum hit points, and then for a weapon, I like using the Halberd of Vigilance here, +1 bonus to initiative rolls and advantage on perception ability checks, and when you make an attack roll as a reaction, you make it with advantage. And you can see we are stacked with force, fire and acid damage. Now, we're about to leave camp, so if we come back to our weapon, you will see it is a 1d10 +1. Now what we need to do is we need to turn on our Combat Mastery Lies, so it uses our Charisma, and this lasts until long rest. And if we come back into here, you will see our halberd is now a 1d10 +7. What we also need to do is we need to trigger, when I can see it, Temporizing Force. So we get to pick a element to deal extra damage of, so let's take cold, so you can see the different damage types when we attack. And then finally we need to summon our Cambion, and now we're ready to find some combat and show the build off. Okay, you can see we're in the combat and we're top of the turn order, so let's start this off. First thing we're going to do, we're going to throw out a Baneful Seal on Skeeve here, just like that. And then from here we are going to do Devastator. So we're going to imbue all our allies, so we'll do the Cambion, we'll do Shadowheart, and we'll do Jaheira. And this means they can use their reaction as an extra attack. Now you see that has used our turn unfortunately, but we have Devastator, so we can make an extra attack here. And there you go, a massive crit already, and we can actually burn the seal, so we'll burn it for some extra necrotic, and we've also applied bleed. So pretty big round from us. Now it's time for our Cambion, and the Cambion is really cool because it can come in here, we can swing at the spellcaster and take them out. And then we have our Devastator reaction that we can take with this one. And we can do this for the other allies too. And now we get the chance to burn one of our things to invoke the Hells, and we can reflect their damage back as necrotic from the Barbarian trying to hit us. So you see they reflected for the 16 and they took the acid damage from our cloak as well. And that's back to our turn. So let's place another seal on the enemy here. There we go. Now we can do our Infernal Conduit, which means we can harm the person in front of us. So if we do a greater harm here, you'll see we did a huge amount of necrotic damage then, and once again we can burn the seal if we choose to. So we can burn it with some fire. And last we've done a huge amount of damage, and because we burnt a seal, you'll see we have 12 temporary hit points. Now that will use your whole action, so be aware. And then the Cambion has Rays of Fire as well, so we can send Rays of Fire up to the other enemy here to deal some pretty decent damage. And you'll see the enemy is taking more acid damage from us. And the Cambion gets a really nice opportunity attack. Now, we are going to place another seal, and we're going to pull it on this enemy down here. Now, from here, we have the opportunity where we can do a few other things. So let's do Hellish Frenzy. So now we have that going, we can swing at this enemy here to take them out, and you'll see a huge crit. We can close the gap here and try and swing again. Now we missed our extra attack, but thanks to our Hellish Frenzy, we gain a third attack. And you'll see a big attack. We've done the cold, the fire, the acid, the normal. We can burn the seal, and again, that's another enemy taken out. And because of our double movement speed thanks to our frenzy, we can close down the other enemies. Now the Cambion can actually get around the battlefield pretty easily by flying, meaning you can get yourself into positions to distract the other enemies like this much easier. Okay, let's say we want to pull an enemy towards us. We can do our pull attack. So we can pull this enemy, potentially. Didn't quite work, but we did apply a seal. And then from there, if we want to, we can do another Hellish Frenzy. You'll see we've gained temporary hit points again because we burnt a seal. And then we can start swinging. Now we can burn the seal for even more damage. And as you can see, we can just pump out the attacks. And don't forget, if you want to give up the initiative, you could do this with Great Weapon Master and you'll be dealing an extra 30 damage every round. And again, the Cambion, what I find with this game is the AI is pretty bad at having enemies run away from summons. So you will find that you get a lot of opportunity attacks with your Cambion. And with that being said, let's throw out another Raise of Fire. Just like that. And we've got the bleed on the enemy there. Now of course we have our own Raise of Fire with this setup thanks to our Helldust gloves, so we can throw this at the enemy here if we choose to. But if you do this, you won't be able to use an attack unless you did something like a shove. And in which case, you know, you could try and shove the enemy off the beam here, which might potentially work. And then it's just time for our Cambion to finish this fight. And that is the Painkiller Illrigger mod. It's awesome for just pumping out damage, imbuing your allies with extra attacks. It's incredible. And if you throw on a spellcaster with haste to haste your Illrigger, you are going to be pumping out massive amounts of damage every single turn. The Shadowmaster Illrigger is the last subclass for us to go over in the Illrigger mod. So let's jump into it, level by level, combat tutorial, and all the items that you could ever need. And of course we start with the Illrigger. Now this gives you baleful seal, I should say, where you can place a seal on top of an enemy, and then you can choose to explode it for 1 to 6 fire or 1 to 6 necrotic damage. However, you leave the bale on, and you get special effects, which we'll go through as we get there. We also get Charisma saving throw proficiency, Constitution saving throw proficiency, Simple Weapon, Martial Weapon, Light Armor, Medium Armor, and Shield proficiencies. Now when it comes to a forked tongue, take whichever you want, to be honest, for your playthrough. I like Intimidation, because I just think it fits the Illrigger. And then for your ability points, we're going to have 8 Strength, 16 Dexterity, 14 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 16 Charisma. For your proficiencies, take what we feel like. And that brings us to Illrigger level 2, which gives us some passives. Now for this, we're going to take Lies. This means we'll use our Charisma modifier for attack and damage rolls. We also gain a boon, and for this one I do like the Abetting Seal. So when a creature damages you, or an ally within 9 meters, you can expend a seal to reduce the damage by 1d10 plus 1. Illrigger level 3 brings our specialization, and for this one we are the Shadowmaster. So the Hidden Assassins of the Hells, Shadowmasters excel at stealth and disguise. So this gives us Marked for Death. The first attack you make against a sealed creature on a turn has advantage. Strike from the Dark. So when you hit a sealed creature with a melee weapon attack and you have advantage on the attack, you do an additional 2 to 8 damage, and an additional 1 to 4 damage to creatures obscured in shadows. We get Master of Disguise, where we can use an Invoke the Hell's Charge to change our appearance or our allies' appearance. And No Escape, and trap an enemy ensuring they cannot move. This effect ends if the Illrigger moves more than 9 meters away from the affected creature. Creatures obscured in shadow have disadvantage on this saving throw. This uses another Invoke the Hell's Charge, and essentially this is all about just standing in the darkness and keeping people stuck. Illrigger level 4 brings a new feat, or our first feat I should say, and for this we're bumping our Charisma up to 18. Illrigger level 5 brings an extra attack, and Illrigger level 6 gives us our Infernal Conduit. So channel the power of the Hells through yourself to heal or harm those around you. Now I'll show this in combat, but you can actually use this to deal necrotic damage to an enemy and heal yourself, or heal yourself to an ally, heal an ally but take necrotic damage yourself. So it's a trade-off either or. Illrigger level 7 brings a Baneful Indirect Charge and an Infernal Conduit Charge. You also gain Veil of Lies. So turn invisible and hide, attacks against you have disadvantage and your attacks have advantage. Really awesome stuff. We gain a boon at this point, and I like taking Unleash the Hells. So we can choose to burn a seal and basically cause a explosion, dealing 2 to 12 fire or necrotic damage to enemies within 3 meters of the sealed target. Illrigger level 8 brings our second feat. Now for this one, you probably guessed it, but we're going to max our charisma out at 20. Illrigger level 9 gives us another Infernal Conduit charge and Forked Tongue Insight, meaning we now have advantage on Insight ability checks. Level 10 brings Blood Price, so when we fail a saving throw, we can use a Blood Price die to take 1 to 10 necrotic damage and increase our saving throw by 1d10. So a nice little trade-off, we can take damage to try and pass the check. Illrigger level 11 brings another Infernal Conduit charge, Terrorizing Force, so we can imbue our weapon with an additional 1d8 of a certain damage type. Summon the Hells, so we can summon a Cambion to help us until long rest. And then a bunch of roguish abilities. We gain Umbral Killer Evasion, so this lets you dodge out the way of certain spells. When a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful Dex saving throw, we take no damage if we succeed and only half if we fail. We gain Relentless Movement, so our movement speed is increased by 3 meters. We gain Stealthy, so we have advantage on stealth ability checks. And Superior Dark Vision, we can see in dark up to 24 meters. And then finally, Illrigger level 12 gives us our final feat, another Baleful Indurate charge and Blood Price charge. Now again, one more boon, and for this one I love taking the Hellish Frenzy. You basically get to Frenzy, you'll get double movement speed, armor class increased by 2, and we can make an extra weapon attack per turn. And then for your feat, I would come all the way to here and take Great Weapon Master. Now, let's go over our equipment, and we should state that if you don't want to have a charisma build, you can go for a dex build and just use a finesse weapon, and that will also increase your AC because of the armor we're using. Kind of depends if you want to go two-handed like I am, or if you want to go dex-based. But for a helmet, we're using Savrok's Horned Helmet. Now we don't really need the Dark Vision because we get that as class abilities, but we do get a critical hit reduction by 1. We can't be frightened or afflicted with emotion-altering conditions, and a Constitution saving throws +1. For a cloak, we're going to take the Cloak of Displacement, so this will activate at the beginning of our turn and give enemies disadvantage on attack rolls against us. We're going to take the Black Guard Greaves to give us Long Strider and Athletics +1. The Armour of Agility, so we get to add our Dex modifier to our armour class, and saving throws +2. The Helldust Gloves, +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC, but more importantly, Raise of Fire and a 1 to 6 fire damage on our weapon attacks. We're going to take the Caustic Band to add 2 solid acid damage, the Burnish Ring for use of Paralysing Ray, the Amulet of Baal to inflict bleeding on targets that have maximum hit points, and then finally the Corpse Grinder. This will give you tenacity, so if you miss an attack, we'll still deal 1 bludgeoning damage anyway, but it's a nice spread of damage. We've got Thunder on it, we've imbued it with fire and acid as well, and we can actually put another damage type on thanks to our class abilities, which I'll show you now. So if we come out here, the first thing we need to do is we need to do Combat Mastery Lies to make sure we use our Charisma for our weapon attacks and our damage. The next thing to do is we need to summon our Cambion, so let's summon the Hells. And then finally we need to do, when I can see it, where is it? Terrorizing Force, and we'll put Cold on this just so we can see the damage difference when we attack. So with all that being said, let's go check the build out. Now you see, we've entered the combat and we actually get to show off our Blood Price. So this is where we can take the necrotic damage to try and roll a higher save. So let's do it. And you'll see we saved against being ensnared, but we did take 6 necrotic damage. And the Cambion is going to get a nice opportunity attack, which it sadly missed, not ideal. But you see, it's now the Cambion's turn, and we're just going to do a very basic Raise of Fire. The Cambion has some really good things where it can actually do melee and ranged attacks. We're also going to try and plop in here because the AI seems to have a thing where it'll run away from summons pretty often, so you get a lot of opportunity attacks. So I'm wondering if we can just give him a little bit of space where he could run through. And now it's our turn. So you'll see we've got our Cloak of Displacement and all sorts going for us. So we're going to place a Baleful Seal. We'll place this on the enemy here. Just like that. Now because we've done that, we have so many things we can do. We could start when it stops lagging. Anytime now, there we go, a Hellish Frenzy. So this will give us 3 attacks in 1 round. So we can come in here, we can smack the enemy. If we want to, we can burn our seal, so we'll just do that there. Did a solid 10 damage with the seal. Another big attack, this time a crit, and we can actually come in here with our Hellish Frenzy, and we can cause bleeding to the enemy because he hasn't taken any damage, and you see all the different damage types we've got there. You'll see we also had Great Weapon Master because we killed the enemy, so if we didn't use our bonus action, we could have actually done another attack. And there's the bleed. Now the Cambion is really good because it can actually fly around, so we can chase down enemies in the harder to reach places, meaning we can distract them while our allies target everyone else. Okay, so we are going to place a seal on the enemy here. There we go. Now because we've done that, we can actually do our Infernal Conduit. Now we want to heal ourselves up a little bit. So to do that, we are going to do lesser harm. We'll target the enemy here. And there you go, you see we did damage to the enemy and we healed ourselves for 24 points. Now that does count as your attack, I'm afraid, but you could, if you want to, Hellish Frenzy. Just like that, which will give you another attack. And we can come down this way. And we could target this enemy here, spreading even more bleed. Or missing. You see the bleed on the enemy there. And again, our Cambion can just take out the little enemies. Just like that. And then start chasing down the others as well. By coming down here. And just making sure they're distracted, that they have to move, they have to use bonus actions to disengage, that sort of stuff. Now one more thing we do is we can invoke the hell, so we can do no escape. And this will ensure enemies cannot move. So if we were to put this on, we'll do Skeeve here. Now unfortunately they saved, but what it would mean is that they'd be unable to move. We could also make that attack with advantage if we want to, or we can just throw out some regular attacks and you can see all the damage we can do here. It's pretty significant. If we wanted to, we could use another Hellish Frenzy. And if I can close the distance,
have to keep going.
We can target this enemy with another third attack. Just like that. And then, because we've got the extra movement speed, we can start hunting down the other enemies and make our way all the way over here. So Hellish Frenzy is really worth it for the increased movement, AC, and the attacks you can do. You'll see that big 22 AC coming in there. And again, we can send our Cambion around to target the enemy. And again, we have the option of so many good things. We could do a Draining Kiss if we want to try and charm them. We can do a Fiendish Charm, we can do a Rush Attack. By knocking them off balance. So many good things you can do here. If we check out off balance by coming here, you'll see disadvantage on strength and dexterity checks, and attack rolls have advantage against it. And then with that being said, we can obviously follow up, so we can place another seal on the enemy here. Just like that, which means we can then run in and follow it up with more attacks. And you see a massive critical hit on the enemy. If we wanted to close down that distance, we have options. We could... Never mind, we don't have options because I pressed the wrong button. But we can slowly start making our way over here if we wanted to. And again, we're going to shoot a Rays of Fire at the enemy. We got advantage. Nice big attacks there. And we can invoke more of our abilities. So we can do a Veil of Lies. And now we've turned completely invisible. Which means we can then dash. And we can start making our way over here. Now there's a good chance the enemy will see us, but obviously this is just a demonstration. But as you can see, we do creep our way up there. Not the fastest, but... you'll see we have managed to make it all the way over. And now we are within reach, where on our next round we could do a melee attack. And again, we'll just shoot some Rays of Fire, just to dwindle the enemy down, just like that. And then we can come in here with our advantage, with our main attack, and pump out the damage. So it's a really awesome build, and obviously if you throw around darkness with an ally, you can just hide in the darkness and really pick the enemies off. You can hold them still, and they just can't do anything. The Illrigger is a really cool mod for Baldur's Gate 3, and the Ruin Illrigger is what we're going over today. It's a caster melee attacker. It's really cool, you can place seals and explode them, and we're going to go over it because it is just incredible. So of course we start with the Illrigger, and we're going level by level, combat tutorial on all the items you could ever need. So, we get Baneful Seal. This means we can place a seal on a creature, and we can deal additional fire or necrotic when we or an ally damage them, and this lasts for 10 turns as a bonus action. Now this will use your Baneful Seal, and this is kind of like sorcerer points in a way, you'll see when we get into the combat. And of course burning the seal for the 1-6 necrotic or fire. We gain Charisma, Constitution, Simple Weapon, Martial Weapon, Light Armor, Medium Armor, and Shield proficiencies. Now for a Forked Tongue, you can pick whatever you want. We're going to go with Intimidation, because I think that just fits the vibe a little bit better. And then when it comes to your ability points, we're going to have 8 Strength, 16 Dex, 14 Constitution, 10 Intelligence, 10 Wisdom, and 16 Charisma. Illrigger level 2 brings some passives. Now for this we can gain Combat Mastery, and there's a few you can do. There's Bravado, where you can add your Charisma modifier to your Armor class. Brutal, where if a creature is no more than one size larger than us, and with a turned weapon we can push them away 1.5 meters. Inexorable, so we gain +1 bonus to saving throws for each hostile creature within 1.5 meters of us. Lies, and this is what we're going with. This will use your Charisma modifier for attack and damage rolls, and this will also help with your spell casting. Listen, if you move after hitting a creature, you went for opportunity attacks. And Unfettered, the range of your Baneful Interact is increased to 18 meters. We're going to go with Lies, so we can use our Charisma for attack, damage, and spell casting. And then we gain a boon, and these boons are based on your seal. Now again, there's some really good ones. There's this one, so when we damage, or an ally damages an enemy within 9 meters, we can expend our seal to reduce the damage by by 1d10 plus 1. There's Bedevil, so when you burn a Baneful Seal on a creature, you reduce its saving throws by 2. We've got Soul Eater, and this will allow you to gain temporary hit points. We've got Styx's Apathy, so when you place a Baneful Seal on a creature, will prevent them from taking reactions. And Swift Retribution, so when a sealed creature provokes opportunity attack, you can make that attack without using your reaction. In my opinion, Retribution is the one to go for here. A free opportunity attack is always nice. And that brings us to level 3 with our specialization. Now for this one, we're going to go with the Architect of Ruin, and that gives us Innovating Spell. So when you damage a creature with your Baneful Seal with one of your spells, you can remove the seal to make the target vulnerable to that damage. So for example, if we place a seal on an enemy and then cast a Firebolt, we can remove our seal to make the enemy vulnerable to fire damage. We also gain Spellblade, so we can make a weapon attack and cast an Illrigger spell as one action this turn. So for your spells here, we are going to take Firebolt and we're going to take Ray of Frost, so we've got a different aptitude of damage types. And then for your main spells, we can pick 3. So we're going to take Shield, nice reactionary based spell to avoid taking damage. We're going to take Hellish Rebuke, a nice reactionary based fire spell. And Burning Hands, because this can be really helpful as well. Illrigger level 4 brings our first feat. Now before that we gain one more spell, so we're going to take Shield of Faith. So we can protect ourselves from attacks by increasing our armor class by 2. This is concentration based. And then for ability improvement, we're going to bump our Charisma up to 18. Illrigger level 6 brings extra attack, so we can now make 2 attacks in one round. Illrigger level 6 brings Infernal Conduit. Channel the powers of the Hells through yourself to heal or harm those around you. I will show you this in combat. Illrigger level 7 brings another Baneful Interact charge and an Infernal Conduit charge. We'll also gain Hellish Versatility, so you can cast one of your Illrigger cantrips in place of one of your attacks. And Aximic Seals. When you burn a Baneful Seal on a creature, you can add your Charisma to the damage roll. Now we gain one more spell at this point, so for this one we are going to take Scorching Ray. And we gain another boon at this point, and in my opinion the one to go for is Unleash the Hells. When you burn a Baneful Seal on a target, you can use your reaction to release an explosion in the target's space, dealing 2 to 12 or 2 to 12 necrotic damage to enemies within 3 meters. Illrigger level 8 brings our second feat. Before that we gain one more spell, so for this one we're going to take Hold Person, a great spell to control the battlefield and ensure you can do critical hits on enemies. And then for your feat, we're going to bump our Charisma up to 20. Illrigger level 9 brings Infernal Conduit charge and Forked Tongue Insight, so we now have advantage on Insight ability checks. Illrigger level 10 brings Blood Price, so when we fail a saving throw, we can spend a Blood Price dice to take 1 to 10 necrotic damage and increase our saving throws by 1d10. So it's a trade-off. You can take damage to increase your saving throws. We gain one more spell for this one. Let's take Bone Shield and Necrotic Vulnerability. And then for a spell here, we're going to take Heat Metal. This is great for ensuring enemies take damage every turn or can drop their weapons. Illrigger level 11 brings another Infernal Conduit charge and Terrorizing Force. Imbue your weapon with Devastating Infernal Might, causing it to deal an additional 1d8 damage of the selected element. And Summon the Hells, where we can summon a Cambion to help us fight alongside us until long rest. There's also Submit, before I forget about that. So when you cast an Illrigger spell, you can remove the Baneful Seal on a targeted creature to impose disadvantage on the creature's saving throw. We gain one more spell at this point, and let's take Mirror Image to boost our AC by a maximum of 9. And then finally, level 12, we get our third and final feat, as well as more charges. And then for this boon here, we are going to take Hellish Frenzy. So when we're in 9 meters of a sealed enemy, we can expand a Baneful Seal to enter the Frenzied state. While Frenzied, our movement speed is doubled, our armor class is increased by 2, and we can make a free weapon attack once per turn. And then finally for your feat, there's a few options. I would either take Great Weapon Master, Savage Attacker, or Alert. I'm going to be taking Alert just to boost us up the turn order as much as possible, but Savage Attacker or Great Weapon Master are also very good options. Okay, let's go over our items, and we're going to start with the Helldusk Helmet. So we can see in magical and ordinary darkness up to a range of 12 meters and cannot be blinded. We also have +2 bonus to saving throws against spells and cannot be critically hit. If you don't care about appearance, or you don't care, or you turn like helmets off, you could go Birthright to get the Charisma +2 to either push you to 20 earlier, so you don't have to use the ability score improvement for that, or to push you to 22. We're going to take the Cindermoth Cloak to tie into the Fire Necrotic theme, so this will give any attacker within 2 meters that attacks us burning. We're going to take the Disintegrating Nightwalkers, so we cannot be enwebbed, entangled, or ensnared, or slip on ice or grease, and we gain Misty Step. We're going to take this Helldusk Armor, so we're considered proficient while wearing it. When we succeed the saving throw, the caster will receive burning for 3 turns. We have resistance to fire damage and cannot be burned, and we take 3 less damage from all sources and gain the ability to fly. For gloves, we're going to take the Helldusk Gloves, +1 bonus to spell attack rolls and spell save DC, and our weapon attacks deal an additional 1 to 6 fire damage. The Ring of Regeneration, at the beginning of our turn, the ring will activate and heal us for 1 to 4 hit points. The Killer Sweetheart, so when you kill a creature, your next attack will be a critical hit. This is only once per long rest though. The Surgeon's Subjugation Amulet, so once per long rest, when scoring a critical hit on a humanoid, we can paralyse them for 2 turns. And then finally, the Sword of Chaos. On a hit, regain 1 to 6 hit points. It has necrotic damage on it as well, tying this whole themed build in nicely. So that is the build, let's go check it out. Okay, as soon as you leave camp, the first thing to do is summon the Hells, and let's get our Cambion. So we've got our summon. There we go, so now we've got an ally on the battlefield. We are also going to get, when I can find it, here we go. This will last until long rest as well, or sorry, short rest, it regenerates. But we're going to do our Combat Mastery Lies to make sure we use our Charisma for everything. There we go. And then the last thing we are going to do, when I can find it on my list, Terrorizing Force. Let's imbue our weapon. We'll do poison damage, just so you can see the different damage types when we come to doing our attacks. Okay, you can see we're in combat and we're top of the turn order, so let's get going. First thing we're going to do, let's place a seal on to Skeeve here. And there you go, you see we've used one of our seals in the bottom. And now because of the Baneful Seal, we can do things like explode it if we want to, all sorts. We're going to do our Spellblade though. So now we can make a weapon attack, just like that. We can do a bunch of things here. So we can burn the seal for extra necrotic damage if we want to. So let's just burn it for some extra necrotic. We can then throw around some spells. So for example, we could do a Burning Hands to torch him as well. And there you go. This also means we can follow up with our next weapon attack. So you can really pump out some stuff here. And now it's time for our Cambion, and the Cambion has a few things it can do. It can rush, it can charm, drain kiss, it can do Rays of Fire. So let's do our Ray of Fire, and we're going to target the spellcaster here. And you see it can pump out some pretty decent damage. It can also fly around, so for example we can send it over here to make sure this archer is a little bit distracted, leaving everyone else alone. You see big misses from the enemy there. And we benefit from a nice opportunity attack thanks to the archer trying to get away from us. Okay, it's back to our turn, so let's put a seal on the barbarian in front of us. Just like that, and again, we can follow up with some really cool things. Now, we can't do our Spell Blade, that's now unavailable, because we used our Invoke the Hellsprout. But we have other options. We have our Hellish Frenzy, so we can get that going. And now, if we just throw out a bunch of attacks, we can, first of all, Executioner thanks to our Killer Sweetheart Ring, because we killed an enemy. You see we did a huge attack there. Now, we're going to paralyze him, we won't burn the seal. And it means we can follow up with more attacks. Just like that. And of course, our Hellish Frenzy, we can follow up with one more. And you can see just how much damage we're doing. We're doing normal damage, we're doing fire damage, necrotic damage, and poison damage. And then from here, if we want to, we can start closing down the distance because we have double movement speed, thanks to our Frenzy. So we can make sure we get in line with these enemies here. And now back to our Cambion, and you see we could try and run down there, but of course, we have the benefit of being able to fly. So we can fly in here, and get right in the face of the enemy, and keep them distracted. With a big miss apparently. And once again, nice big opportunity attacks. Okay, it's time for us to continue our attacks, so let's chase the enemy down here. Once again, we'll place a seal on him. So, one Baneful Seal. Just like that. And you'll see we've got other things here. We've got our Infernal Conduit. We can do another Hellish Frenzy if we want to. So if we target this. And we can just swing. If we want to burn the seal, we can. So let's burn it for fire. Just like that. And you'll see we still have our Frenzy, even though the seal is gone. So just bear that in mind. You can get your 3 attacks and still burn the seal for extra damage. And again with the Cambion, we can throw out our Rays of Fire. So we'll target the dude here for huge damage, and then we'll chase them down to try and get that opportunity attack again. Okay, we want to show off a few more things, so again I'm going to put another seal on the enemy. You'll see we can get 6 in total, so we've placed our seal, and then we're going to throw out a Firebolt. Now, once again, we can burn the seal if we want to, we're not going to, and you'll see we can still flow up with another attack. We can also turn on our Frenzy. So you can throw out your fire, you can throw out one of your cantrips like you saw in the class features, and then still float up with big attacks like this and burn the enemy. And because we've got such great movement speed, it means we can chase the enemies down here. And we can follow up with our attack on the spellcaster and miss. And of course, the Cambion can just finish the enemy off here with a nice big crit, and then start making its way to aggro other enemies. Okay, we can do our Infernal Conduit charge. Now, the enemy has gone away, but what we can do is in a circle around us, we can actually kind of explode and do a bunch of damage. So let's do it on the enemy here. Good old sledge so you can see. Now we're doing greater damage. And you can see the huge amount of necrotic you can pump out. What this also means is we can do like a pommel strike as a follow-up. And then we can apply a seal if we choose to, just like that. And of course we can follow up with some Rays of Fire to wipe out that enemy. But it's not just damage you can do with that. We can come in here, we can do another Conduit charge, and we can do healing. So you're seeing people have taken some damage. So if we come, say, here, and there you go, we healed up our ally, but we took a bunch of damage instead. What it also means though, is it's not just our Cambion that can fly, we can trigger our flight, and if we have the movement speed, we can make our way and get up here. Whereas the Cambion can do that as well, so let's just fly, and we'll smack the enemy, just like that. Now what's really good is you would have just seen that even though we took a bunch of damage, thanks to our Ring of Regeneration, we heal up every round, and with the Sword of Chaos, we also heal up with every attack. So even though we can damage ourselves to heal our allies, we can regenerate that health through smacking enemies. So you see we healed another 1 just then, and if we come up here, we'll hit the enemy and we'll regain 1 to 6 as well. Just like that. So you see, you can really keep yourself topped up, meaning you don't need to rely on too many healing spells or anything like that, especially if you know the enemies are very, very weak. So that is the Ruin Illrigger subclass build for Baldur's Gate 3. I really hope you have enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you've changed about it, any other abilities, items, spells, all that fun stuff. If you're not ready, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. I've got more guides to Baldur's Gate, to Dragon Age, to Oblivion, Expedition 33, Elden Ring, basically all the amazing RPGs you could ever need. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.